I never thought I'll live to see the day where gamers en masse turn against the Civilization games. And keep in mind, this is not because of woke. I already called it when the Henrietta or what's her stupid name Stubman situation happened, that this will not impact Civilization 7 sales in the slightest, because Civilization has been already super evoke with historic inaccuracies from Civilization 6, because that went fully overboard, and the reality is people did not care. Civilization 7, though, is hated en masse because, well, we're gonna check it out, but it's the most stupidest reasons that you can imagine. It is honestly something that should have never happened. And I think this just perfectly will encompass why the games industry is in the situation that is it in. Because Civilization solved everything. Civilization knows the formula, yet it refuses to use it.
So Civilization 7 is getting absolutely cooked right now, and the reason why is because apparently the game has released super unfinished, and there is a lot of people who are out there complaining right now about the game being janky, buggy, messed up, whatever the case may be, and those people are especially the ones who paid $100 in order to have an early access to Civilization 7, only to find out that they're basically paying for a beta access to a game that is extremely broken. This is after all the controversy that featured.
I love this. Again, pre-order games, this is what you get. This is what you deserve. This is why we can't have nice things, because your dumbass is giving them $30 extra to pre-order some dumb shit. And most of these people probably brought the Super Deluxe Edition for $150. You are sad. You are the reason this can happen. Because you buy it, it's shit, and you're like, well, so sunk cost fallacy. I think it's gonna be good at some point. Pathetic. I hate this so much. Everyone who bought this game as a pre-order deserves to play this game forever in this state, because they clearly support this.
Harriet Tubman and all that nonsense that happened with Civilization 7. But now we realize that with all the diversity, equity, inclusion, with all of the talks of virtue signaling, it really doesn't matter because the games are going to end up broken anyway. Even if you take out all the wokeness, the games are broken, they're buggy, they're messy, and that's the real issue.
Yeah, again, the wokeness in Civilization games is like, people don't like wokeness when it's in their face. People don't know, including myself, enough about history to call out a lot of the bullshit that they have in Civilization games for the female leaders. Because again, typically no female leader that is in any Civ games actually has even remotely enough critical acclaim or done in their lifetime to actually earn the title of that. Only a couple have come to mind. Katrina the whatever from the Russian Empire, that is a legitimate one. And beyond that, France had one, but she was technically a proxy for the future king, but she seized all the power. That's a legitimate one, and everything else is just bullshit. Especially Africa. Especially that place, okay? Every female leader in Civ is pretty much just, DEI insert bullshit.
Issues that are plaguing video games like this right now. So let's get into this article, guys. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. So it says the launch of the new Civ game was always messy. Longtime fans grapple with new changes to a beloved and complex strategy series, alongside the usual flood of initial complaints that greet any big new PC release, from performance problems to usability issues. And then a few months or years later, everyone is like, okay, actually, this is great now. But Civilization 7 seems off to a particularly rough start, compounded by first impressions coming largely from players who had to pay $100.
By the way, Civilization 7 is fucked. The bugs can be ironed out, it's true. Every Civ game starts out with a lot of bugs and shit. The Civ 7 bugs can be ironed out, probably not really a big issue, honestly. Annoying, and it should never be like that, but not a big issue. What Civ 7 is going to absolutely fail and tank at is the fact that in Civ 7 they decided to make the game more streamlined and simple. Civ is already the easiest quadruple expand, explore, exterminate something. Triple X, quadruple X strategy games, or whatever the fuck what this franchise is called. It is already literally the simplest franchise to get in. No other franchise is as beginner friendly as Civ. And the reality is they decided to make Civ 7 literally accessible to retards. Yeah. They took almost all the complexity out wherever they could. They condensed the living shit out of it. And that is what's going to make this franchise fail. Because it's no longer a strategy game. It's now an autism simulation game.
To get early access through a deluxe edition. Now, my issue is this particular mindset right here, right? So you're going to say this greets any big new PC release. Not any, okay? There are some developers out there that are actually releasing games that aren't broken on day one, right? Unfortunately, they are too few and far between, but there are some out there that do it, and there are some big games that do it as well. Space Marine, for the most part, was pretty much, bug-free from what I remember. I didn't have a single issue playing that game on day one. Same thing with Black Myth Wukong. Aside from the one disconnect that I experienced, I didn't have any issues playing that game day one, but I do know that there were some people that had some issues with that, so I'll let that one slide. But Space Marine, I don't remember there being any problems. Now, obviously, this mindset right here is a big issue in gaming because you are...
The multiplayer for Space Marine had problems, if I remember correctly.
Basically just being complacent. You are not actually holding these developers accountable in any way whatsoever, unfortunately. You're probably not refunding the game. You're probably not leaving them a bad review. You're not doing anything to make them wake the hell up and realize that this is unacceptable. And PC gamers have been proven to be able to get things done, right? We've seen so many things happen over the last couple of years in the gaming industry where PC gamers were the one who actually got change happened and made. So anyway, it says everyone's okay with it now. This is great now. But of course, the people with the $100 are having the biggest issue. With almost a decade between Civ 6 and Civ 7, which launches in full on February 11th across PC and console, there's a lot of excitement and expectation riding on the 4X strategy sequel, and a lot of new features from streamlined resource management and societal development to crisis events and being able to mix and match leaders and civilizations are all being received pretty well so far. Civ 7 isn't a bad game.
Not really. Not really. Now, some people actually like it more than others, but the fact that you pick your 7, then you can change it is just kind of fucking stupid. But, it's a give and take thing, but the other things that they decided to do with it is just bad.
Game. At its core, it might even be a great one, but there's a lot of surface level stuff getting in the way. Well, that's the issue with a lot of these modern games, right? You have a lot of this surface level.
I think people will accept the downgrades that Civ 7 did. But the next Civ is going to be fucked. Because, again, typically what's happening with game companies now is the moment that they start going downhill in complexity, they just catapult themselves in disaster. I mean, Diablo 3 was less complex than Diablo 2, and Diablo 4 is literally retardism. I'm using that word a lot today, but it is what it is. We're talking about these subjects. It is what it is, boys. Stick to it. And Diablo 4 compared to Diablo 3 is even more streamlined, simplistic. Which is crazy considering how streamlined Diablo 3 already was. I mean, it doesn't get a lot worse than that.
Nonsense that developers could have avoided, right? We could have avoided all of this. You could have put some more time in the game if you needed it. You could have let the game cook a little bit more, which again, 10 years though? 10 years of development and you're releasing a buggy game, you're releasing a broken game. I don't know, bro. I think at that point, 10 years is such a long time to develop a video game. And if you are after 10 years releasing a broken video game, you clearly did something wrong, in my opinion. You did something.
It's probably just the classic problem that the game industry currently has, that talent is few and far between at this point and barely existent at most studios. Every person currently, in a lot of studios, it seems like every single person in power is some person who started working at the studio like 10, 20 years ago and has effectively just climbed the ranks because, well, they have been at the studio for 20 years. We kind of just need to, give them a raise at some point, and well, here we are now. Talentless people making talentless choices.
Extremely wrong. You mismanage your funds, you mismanage your developers, and it's very obvious that you didn't have the game's best interests at heart throughout the entire development, because there's no freaking way that you did all of this for 10 years and it's still broken. In my opinion, again, you can disagree with me. That's perfectly fine. Current Steam reviews for the game are mixed. All right, so at least people are actually leaving bad reviews, so that way we can hold these developers accountable for the meantime. Then it says that with less than 47% being positive at the time of writing, yikes, many point out to the general feeling that the game is unfinished and not ready for prime time, with the UI being the biggest issue. While not as critical in a shooter or action adventure, poor menu layout, navigation, and how information is conveyed in a dense strategy game like Civ can be a death sentence.
Oh wow, it still has 50k people inside of it literally right now playing, and a 66k peak for the pre-order. 51%. Okay, that is pretty bad. Oof. Because again, the people who pre-order are technically the biggest super fans, so that is pretty rough.
I agree. Let's check out the game on SteamDB and let's see how it's doing. So if we take a look here over at Civilization 7 on Steam.
Why do I even try? Why do I even try? I was actually thinking, wait, should I show you the SteamDB? No, nah, not this time. Because I'm just checking the numbers. Why do you even try?
SteamDB, things are obviously not looking that great. It's got good numbers in terms of player base. You also got to remember that this is just early access, right? So this is not even full release yet. So the players are pretty strong for the game right now, even in early access. However, the reviews are unbelievably bad.
Oh, I had a 51% review after. Oof.
48.39%, mostly negative, 8,000 plus reviews right now. People are pissed off, and rightfully so. From what I'm understanding, things are very buggy, very messy here, and people are making their thoughts and their minds.
One of the biggest things, well, a couple of the biggest things is the random map generator just literally sucks. The maps are too small most of the time. They're unbalanced as all hell. And they just spawn the wrong tiles and stuff. It's pretty insane.
Heard, and that's how it should be, and I'm glad that they're actually doing that, because unfortunately they just don't do that too often. Then you see here, I know people are complaining about the UI, but I have yet to see the turn counter mentioned. I don't understand how they launched like this.
Oh yeah, the UI is also just like super unfriendly. This is the thing again. Civilization has had the... Dude, I could make probably a better Civ game at this point. Because they have had the Civilization formula nailed down for generations at this point, honestly. And people, in every game, people have complained so long that you literally know what are the actual legitimate problems in the game, what needs to be improved, what needs to be changed, and whatnot. And yet, these fuckers just don't care. They just do something at random, because why not?
Megathread on Reddit has been compiling a bunch of things players are frustrated with, from city icon blocking units, icons to some menus being full of empty space, while others lack important information or generally look unpolished. I'll have to be honest here, the UI in Civ 6 is better, wrote user Lamet AOE4. A 9-year-old game manages to get a better UI over this brand new game. Some players think part of the problem is the game being designed with more of a console focus than its predecessor, leading towards suboptimal UI design choices for PC players. That's also another thing, right?
Why would you design even for consoles at this point, honestly? I wonder. It just seems like a waste of oxygen. Like, Xbox admits defeat, PlayStation literally doesn't care about your shitty game, and the majority of your player base is on PC. Who the hell do you think is gonna play this game on console? The FIFA players? The Madden players? I'm sorry, do you think there's a lot of overlap between historic turn-based games and fucking sports? Really?
these games, yes, it's great that they're able to be on console and people can have access to more games they didn't have access to before. That's fantastic. But there has to be some level of compromise made in order to take a game that's notoriously on PC and put it on console, right? Because PC has so many more options available to it in terms of a UI that you could tinker with things and for the most part be able to do damn near anything you want. There's very little limitation with a mouse and keyboard. But then when you have a console and you only have a controller to operate with, things obviously need to be tailored to that as well. So in order to make the game releasable on both aspects, they, instead of making two different UIs, they're not going to do that. They made one singular UI, and this is what they chose to do. They made it.
Well, it's gonna be bad. I mean, how do you mess up something like Civ? That's insanity. Anyway, that was Hypnotic 10 out of 10. Bye.